What if you could turn your pain into your purpose? Welcome everyone to a bonus episode where you are going to meet the amazing people behind the Notes to My Younger Self book that is going to be launched on November 30th. 9 days until you get to experience what the Imperfectly Perfect campaign is also all about. What makes it all so special and inspiring is that these amazing co-authors under Glenn Marsden's guidance are sharing their heartfelt stories, experiences that have completely transformed them. They got the lessons from all the pain, the hardship, and are using it all now to inspire you to live a better life and to heal completely. I've done a part of the process, and let me tell you, it is tough. And I'm in a point where I cannot yet use my story as these amazing ladies. I still have a lot to process, and that's why the amount of admiration and respect that I have for them cannot even be put into words. Glenn Marsden, the founder of the IPC, is changing the face of mental health one talk at a time. It's those tough conversations that make the difference in living a life by chance or living a life by choice. We have with us the amazing co-authors Leighanne Hromcik, Romyann Brooks, and Claire Gibbons. Welcome, everyone. It is a true pleasure to have you with us. I would love to start our conversation with asking Glenn if you can summarize your amazing story about the Imperfectly Perfect campaign. Glenn, how did it start and how did IPC impact your life and the life of everyone around you?
Wow, where do I start? That's a big old question, that one. So now we're coming to 4 years, and I suppose my story started, and I know a lot of your audience know this, but from losing a friend. Sadly, took his own life back from the UK. And I suppose that started the hard conversations because I'd never lost anybody personally. It had been a long time since I'd seen him, obviously with me living in Sydney, Australia. But then going back to social media and looking and just what we see these days, highlight reels. He had a family, he had a little boy, he had a career, he had cars, he had vacations. Again, unassuming, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And partly I can't say I knew everything that was going behind the scenes because I'd not seen him for many years. However, looking at someone's social media, what we do these days is we see what we pretend to be a highlight reel and think their life must be perfect. And we fall into this trap of comparing our lives with other people's lives, and we miss little signs. And once we do lose people, I think it's a sense of people going, did I not see something? What could I have done? Could I have done more? And I suppose for me to learn that and reach out to all friends in the UK to find out he'd taken his life, and then see that he got a little boy the same age as my little boy, and to see a video his partner had posted of them dancing and kissing and laughing, that broke my heart, because for his partner to have to sit down to that little boy and say, Daddy's not coming home, you can't fathom it. You really can't. You put yourself in a same, if you've got kids and you put yourself in that position and sit down and just know, it breaks your heart thinking, having to say that to your son or daughter who's a little kid who would not know any difference. So with that being said, moving forward, it was a sense of talking to people, opening those conversations up, seeing that I wasn't the only one that was experiencing this, with people having lost people. And yes, there are many organizations out there around the world, in Australia. I reached out to someone wanting to do my part for them, but I got no thank you. Understandably at the time, yes, it was frustrating because here I was with all this passion and I was like, well, I want to help. What can I do? But understanding now with what I've achieved, which I'm very grateful for, there are a lot of advocates, and we can't take everyone who's wanting to help. And this is obviously what I've learned along the journey. So I look back, and when I got those no's, what it did was just gave me this newfound appreciation of what organizations had achieved and what it actually took. And I started the conversations, and I reached out thinking, you know what, I'll do it very different and utilize my photography, which is a passion of mine. And I was fed up, and I'm going to say, I've seen these campaigns out there around Australia and looking elsewhere, which was quite frankly shit. And when I mean that, I say in all sincerity that there was campaigns with little old women with a bunch of flowers, and it was talking about mental health. And I was like, first of all, people are time poor. They're going to see that. They're going to walk straight past it. Secondly, if they do take a look and they're going to see a little old lady with a bunch of flowers talking about her husband who she lost to suicide, there's going to be no connection there, especially for our younger generation. So I thought, how can I make something different and open these conversations? Who do our kids look up to? Who do we look up to? Corporate, sports players, professionals in the entertainment industry. And that spurred me to start reaching out, saying, can I do your portrait? Obviously, I was getting no's at the beginning. Nobody knew who I was. I started sending voice notes. People heard the sincerity in my voice, started conversations, got to know them, build relationships. We did it very different, which you can see if you're watching this live. You can see some of the photos in the background. It wasn't what we normally see, a celebrity talking about mental health, where they're still in the studio, the spotlights are on. This was, I need you to remove the mask. The mirror has two faces, one that we show to the world, one that people think they know you from, and one that we don't tend to show to the world. And that was it. And it started spiraling out of control and getting bigger, and then America. And then we come to present. It was a case of, there was a serendipitous meeting where this lady, Kazia Luckett, as you know, reached out and said, this is amazing. What can I do to help? We became close within the vicinity of what we were both doing. She had a mission placed on her heart. She told me what she was doing. She knew what I was doing. And then we brought it together, and she told me about her book and what had been placed on her heart. And when it comes to, you mentioned at the beginning, these ladies that have stepped forward under the guidance, like, nobody's under the guidance, to be honest with you. These ladies have done a lot of work internally on themselves, and all we have been is just that catalyst or a stepping stone, a platform for them to share the story. Because as I often say, that story that you are sat on, somebody out there is waiting to hear.
Wow, what a story. And to be honest, I'm literally thrilled that many people are already interested for the 2023 volume, but you're going to tell them, you're going to tell us about this at the end of our talk today. I would love to ask the ladies, maybe starting with Claire. Claire, how was it for you to start pouring your soul, to get to the bottom of everything that happened to you in the past, in your childhood? How did you cope with everything? How was the process for you? Because as I said, for me, it was extremely challenging, and you need to have a lot of determination to take it seriously and finish it, because I have been procrastinating it because of all of the painful and the strong emotion. How was it for you, Claire?
Oh, so it's a lot like Glenn said, we've done a lot of work on ourselves internally. So when the process started, yes, a lot of emotions did come up, and things that you thought that you had dealt with as well in the past. And then they came more to the surface, and you actually, it was a great process in the fact that you actually got to really work through those a lot more. So for me, it was, yes, it was challenging, but it was also really empowering to actually be able to work through those emotions that you thought that had already sort of gone by the wayside, you know. But it's been a very big eye opener at the same time, but in a really good way. Like, I've worked so much internally on myself, and I feel I've come out the other side of it an even stronger person than I started, really.
Wow, so amazing, Claire. Thank you for sharing that. And how about you, Romy? How was it for you? Romy, you need to unmute yourself.
That's it. I've unmuted myself now. The process that we were going through, it was very cathartic. As Claire said, there was a lot of emotion that came up, and Kat's just got on my lap. But I found it at the time. I was also going through, my father had just broken his hip, and I was caring for him. So I was caring for my dad, and it was in a space where I'd lived with him for about 40 years. So all of a sudden, I'm in a very sort of a small space with my father, looking after him, worried about him, trying to write the book as well, going through the emotions of all childhood traumas coming up as well, and resolving them. And it was a really amazing experience, because it was very visceral. It was happening right there and then. And it was my way of actually separating myself from the past and observing it, which I think is really important, because when you're going through something, there needs to be a part of you that separates and watches and observes what's happening, rather than being completely absorbed by the pain or the past. Because you do need to, you gain that insight when you step away. It's almost a disassociation, but you are very aware of what's happening. And that was sort of how I felt in that experience, which gave me sort of more clarity and insight into the past. So it was, it was hard, challenging, but very cathartic. And I was really pleased that I did it.
Wow. And Leighanne, can you please also share with us your thoughts about the process, how it was for you to get everything out there?
I sure can. You know, kind of piggybacking off of what Glenn said about the mask, we all have them. And it's just the fact that just all of this has come full circle. I mean, that was my biggest thing, without giving away all the details. When I found it was all around loss, losing my parents and the way that I lost them, and where I was in life. And just got a divorce a year before, and it was not that's another story, but it was like a protective mechanism in my mind, which it was not. It was actually more like a sword or a gun. It was just like I was truly destroying my spirit. I don't want to say my soul, because I was always a good person, but just the life in me, the light in me was shut off, because I walked around with a mask trying to hide my pain from the grief and the loss, the sadness, the just complete unawareness of who I was now and how to go through life, and single mom, and put that mask on and be the strong mom. I'm okay, I'm good, because I was always strong. I was always looked at as the strong person in the family, and maybe by default I just felt that I needed to live up to that continually. So long story short, I just kept putting on a mask, and and this wasn't short-lived. It went on, and the more time went by, the more masks I had to put on in order to cope and pretend. Not that I was trying to pretend to be somebody else, but I was hiding the pain. I was hiding the pain and a lot of other things, but I never knew how to deal with what do you do when you find yourself in the fetal position on the floor and you can't move. I was never taught that. Most of us weren't, growing up. The fact that even happened, and then how do you get up? Like, how do you take the first step, or the first even glimpse of, maybe I kind of want to take a step? Because I know a lot of times when we walk around with all these different masks, it's kind of like you get to a hopeless place where it's like, I don't care if I get up or I don't. And that's kind of where the whole Imperfectly Perfect campaign and mental health awareness comes in. And I've been there. I've definitely been there. But that was later, and it was because of the masks. And they finally came off when I broke. And I broke like destructive. I mean, I wasn't destructive, but a lot of things in my life just went spiraling. This is the one thing, and I'll stop here, but knowing that so many of us go through life wearing masks and masks, I guarantee, I promise, I've never seen it not happen. I promise it will come out sideways at some point in life. And the sideways is not ever a pretty thing. So yeah, I had to let things come out sideways and work through it, work through a lot of stuff and not just it, to get to the other side, realize that it's just not worth it. Just being who I am is just who I am. That's so much healthier and it's much lighter. I feel much more free than wearing all those masks, where literally I felt like I was suffocating, like my suffocating shell in hell. That's what it felt like.
Wow, Leighanne, listening to your lady's stories, it just gets me to understand that I need to be more patient with myself in the process. And I'm sure that everyone listening to us, they're going to get a good lesson on being kind to yourself. There's just no other way. Just to embrace it all, the good, the bad, the ugly, maybe most ugly at the beginning, but we can definitely go through it. Thank you very much for sharing this. And my next question would be for Glenn. Glenn, can you please tell us, what is one advice that you could give now to your younger self?
To be honest with you, I thought this long and hard. And I think with the journey that I've walked and all of the lessons, I wish, or I would have given myself to realize that this journey that we're on is a life full of lessons. And the sooner we can realize that, because we're all indoctrinated from an early age into a system that takes us to school, and we're always looking for external validation and competing and comparing and judging other people. It's what's ingrained in us. And to give myself, or a note to my younger self, would be about explore things, question things more, learn to surrender more, listen to yourself more. Because what do we tend to do? Because we are indoctrinated, we listen to teachers. They've got a one view scope of the world from what they've learned. We listen to our parents. That's our generational traumas carry on, because we're listening to them and we're picking up everything that they've gone through. And we don't question it because we don't know it. And I think, and I'll piggyback back off Lee, where it's like when things do tend to hit rock bottom, it comes out sideways. But what comes from that is that beautiful light where we can surrender to it and actually realize this may just be a blessing. As hard as it's going through, it's breaking all of those things we've actually been indoctrinated in and making us question things. And me and Romy had this incredible conversation the other day, deeper past her story. And it was this sense of when you move in, and I know Claire's on this journey and Leighanne, and the majority of women are, this spiritual nature that suddenly comes upon you when you start questioning things and you start noticing serendipitous moments and things that happen for a reason. And then it's almost like, sometimes it's happened to me, you can have a flashback over all of these pivotal moments that you've gone through, and it leads up to where you are now. Because if that hadn't have happened, would this may have happened? If that hadn't happened, maybe this. That wasn't a nice process, but it's made me find my voice, and it's made me move forward to become the person I was maybe always meant to be. But because we're so conditioned by societal expectations, and this is what, when Lee says, we all have these masks on, and we've all been there. There's not one person on this earth that can clearly say they have been truly authentic. And this is why I don't really like that word, because a lot of people's actions don't mean what the definition of the word means. And that's not their fault. It's because we've been conditioned. Yes, we can say we're authentic, but like I say, the mirror has two faces, the one that we show the world, the one after. And we listen to these entrepreneurs and they're placing all the highlights and they're saying this and saying this. And again, they don't know any different. Everyone's just trying to go in this cycle of life, and they're competing and comparing. And it's just like, wow, if we surrendered and we stopped trying to control it and we got out of the ego, and not the narcissistic side of the ego where, look at me, it's the ego that keeps us in these habitual cycles that keeps us going round and round, and we're going, why is this always happening to us? Well, you're not learning the lesson that you need to. That is what I have learned, and that's what I tell myself. Learn to stop the control, learn to question everything and explore things, go deeper on myself, surround myself with people that maybe, you know, when you're at school and there was the oddball that a lot of people wouldn't hang around with because they weren't the cool kid. Well, maybe those people are your people, because our imperfections are what make us perfect. But because of society, we've judged people on those imperfections. So it's the same as all these celebrities on the campaign. We all paint a narrative from what we see on a TV or hear on a radio or a song. We paint a picture of what we think they are, until, as you've heard when I interview some of them, couldn't be more different.
We sometimes forget that celebrities are people too. We sometimes forget that our parents, our children, our relatives have their own stories. As you told me, Glenn, a few months ago, and when we had that amazing mentorship, it's like then and there I began to find out who I really was. As Leighanne said, many masks. We are just trying so hard to be someone that would be liked and approved of in society. And it's only normal. As Glenn says, it's not anyone's fault. It's not like anyone wants to be looking fake or to be painting something unreal. It's just the only coping mechanism that we know to put in front of ourselves just to be accepted and approved of. And it was painful. As I said at the beginning of our conversation, Glenn has made me cry many times, but tears of release and tears of awareness. And I love it, Glenn, that you mentioned the lessons. And I would also add how important it is for us as a society to just normalize mistake making. Mistakes are amazing and such a great part of the process. It's like you cannot move ahead without making any. So a great advice that I may add here would be for us to continually fail with a smile on our faces, because we get amazing lessons, as Glenn said. Romy, what do you think that a good advice would be for your younger self? What would you tell your 10-year younger self?
I would say that to be a little more courageous in stepping into that uncomfortable space. That's where the conversations happen. Sometimes we step away from the awkwardness and the uncomfortableness, especially within relationships. And actually everything is relationships, because we are in relation to everything around us, each person, and our society. And when I was picking up on the things that everyone was talking about, and everything, especially the comparison, the different narratives, the assumptions that we make of others. And I think sometimes we make, well, no, not sometimes, we make huge assumptions of each other. And even when you're in a relationship with someone, you assume that you know everything about that person. Especially if you've been, let's say, married to them, or you've got children, and you assume everything about your child. But every single day is a new, fresh day, and they can do something in that fresh day, and they've got something to say to you that is different and fresh. And I'd say, just for my younger self, be a little more courageous, be a little more kind to yourself. The kindness that we sometimes give to others, we do need to turn that in and reflect it to ourselves as well. So be a little more compassionate and a little braver, and step into that space. And as you said, Roxana, making mistakes is I feel that is a brilliant privilege to be able to make mistakes and to smile and to think, okay, that didn't work. That was, and I think I read somewhere, mistakes are just mistakes on your way to where you're going. and they can take you on a slightly different journey, that you learn something different that you wouldn't have done before, or it takes you somewhere that you meet someone you wouldn't have done before. You know, there is always a lesson, a learning, and a blessing, whatever happens, but it takes that time to find it sometimes. But to do that with kindness and courage, that would be my takeaway.
Beautiful, Romy. I love it that you mentioned compassionate. I'm so grateful for that word because I'm still learning this. And I'm sure that everyone watching us and listening to us have this idea that we are always doing our best. If we could do more, we would do more. If we could have done more 5 minutes ago, we obviously would have done more. So it's such a beautiful lesson that you shared with us, Romy. Thank you for that. How about you, Claire? What advice would you give to your younger self?
So a little bit of what both Glenn and Romy were saying, really. So firstly, that around like Glenn was saying, I'm sort of on this journey of starting to question things that a little bit more internal, you know, working on myself internally. On this sort of, you know, the spiritual journey has started, and I wish I had listened to my gut instincts a bit more maybe when I was younger, because those things are what I'm learning from now. So the gut instincts that I'm getting is part of this journey that I'm on, and I just wish I'd learned to listen to that and tap into that a little bit more. And like, you know, what you were saying about mistakes and what Romy was saying about mistakes, there's never a truer saying than when you say you live and learn. You learn from everything that, you know, you do every single day. What happened 10 years ago, I've looked at, you know, how those things link to where I am now. You know, if certain things hadn't happened, I wouldn't have been on this path. So yeah, I would just always say, you know, making mistakes, it's not failure, it's just live and learn. And always just think, you know, it doesn't matter if I make mistakes, be kind to yourself, move forward. And for me, not letting that fear hold me back. Fear is something, you know, like that, get that fear into your head. At the end of the day, like Glenn's been talking to me about things lately, and she's like, what have you got to lose? He's like, you know, if you reach out to someone and they say no, what's the worst that can happen? So just not let that fear hold me back as well. That's another thing I definitely tell my younger self.
Beautiful, Claire. Thank you for sharing that. Oh my God. There's just so much that we all need to work on regarding kindness. I see that most of you are mentioning this, and I guess that, as you said, Claire, it's to just live and learn and make mistakes again and just get the lessons, as Glenn said, and move on. This is the beauty of it all. The gut feeling. My God, I can truly understand what you are saying about this, Claire, because you just forget who you are when you don't follow it. We do tend to listen more to what other people say, and these are not bad people. They want to help us. They think that we just cannot figure it out on ourselves. But how important it is to just know what is happening in your heart, what's going on there really. What a great lesson, Claire. And how about you, Leighanne? What advice would you give to your younger self?
Well, two things I was going to piggyback on, but let me just focus strictly on the whole mask thing. What I experienced and what a lot of people are experiencing is I keep putting myself into the position of when I was even younger, not just when my parents passed, but when I was younger, because I'm pretty sure, no, I'm not pretty sure, I'm positive that I learned on my own how to start putting masks on when I was living at home when I was younger, because of some just an unhealthy pattern of from my mom. And I never talk about this out in the open. It's not a horrible thing. It's just, since they've passed, it's just like it's just hard to a guilt thing. I don't know. See, I'm human, but at least I put it out there. I started putting masks on back then to protect myself and be strong. And I think we all have, nobody's childhood is perfect. And that's where we learn and we're formed and we learn how to adapt, and we just become these little beautiful people that grow up into adults that carry whatever we carry with us from our childhood. And so that was part of just that I'm on my own. I got to, protect myself kind of thing. And weight, not what I looked like, but weight, like the number on the scale was extremely important to my mom. So it's kind of dysfunctional as I'm saying this. So there was all that going on, and then they passed and I had to hold masks, and it was almost as if I didn't know who I was truly. And I was an adult, I had 2 kids. I didn't know who I was because I was just so good at covering it up, not just from my childhood, but just, when I started putting all the masks on, I didn't know who I was. And people would ask me, what's your favorite color? I had no idea. What's your favorite food? I don't know. Protein. I didn't know who I was, honestly, until I don't even know. I know I do know. It was right after the pandemic. So a couple of years ago. It's like, it's very strange. But what I began to do, and this is just kind of a practical thing, and I'm speaking to the gap, the people that maybe are in that hopeless place where they just could care less if they wake up again tomorrow and nobody knows and they're just being silent. And then, when you've actually stood up. So that gap right there, I think there's a huge need. I think because people that are feeling like that, typically we don't want to say, or we didn't want to say, hey, I don't care if I wake up. We're not reaching out, and it's silent, like Lynn was talking about, like it's silent. And if anybody that's silent but can still hear, what I started doing the masks were stripped from me. That's a whole other story. But what I began to do to start feeling comfortable being who I am was literally like itty bitty things each day. Dog is snoring. Every day I would put myself in an uncomfortable situation, or I would do something that was uncomfortable on purpose so that I would grow in that place and expand. But it's like something minor, like maybe I would, I don't know, it's something very so minor that it wasn't going to send me over the edge. But, it was in a social situation. Maybe I looked somebody in the eye, looked a stranger in the eye, something like that, and realized it's okay. Like the world didn't fall apart. I'm good. I'm okay. Like I'm safe. And so that was a little baby step. So the next day I could take another little step, and maybe it was, I looked 2 people in the eye, and I'm using that as an example. It's like I began to build on the baby steps, like the little building blocks, because evidently it was important for me to feel safe to be who I am in front of whomever, didn't matter. And that's just, it was not a perfect journey, trust me, but those are like the baby steps that I made. And that's why I say, he's snoring so loud. That's why I say to people that are just in that place where they're hopeless and they feel helpless, it's just like the tiny little glimmer of light, little glimmer of hope. And if you don't feel like you can do it for yourself, surely there's probably somebody in your life, hopefully, that you feel like you could take that little bitty step for. Like for me, it wasn't for myself. It was for my kids initially. Absolutely. It was definitely not for myself. It's for my kids.
Wow. Indeed, Leighanne, as we talked a few weeks ago, you did say that your children were your angels, your saviors. And I would want to ask you now, Leighanne, how is your relationship with yourself in this very moment when you have dealt and you have processed most of what happened in the past? How do you communicate with yourself now?
Okay, so this is the other thing I was going to say is I began to, as I was gotten into like just regular life now as I'm going through life. So I have a daughter who's 20 and a son who's 23. But my daughter, she's in that, well, she's been in that realm and still is of what you look like and weight, the number on the skin, like just all of that, just it's everywhere. And when I feel like if I have a moment, and I have them, where I'm going to think something negative about myself, or I'm going to be tempted to beat myself up, immediately I shift and I think about, would I ever want my daughter to hear, let's say, for example, what I was just about to say about myself? Would I ever want somebody to say that to her? And that's kind of like my boundary, like my marker, like my bumper, I guess you could say, when it comes to like just shake it, like get it straight. Like absolutely not. I would never say, why would I even think that about myself? Because I do believe we are the hardest on ourselves than anybody else in this world. I know that I have been, and it's like I still don't understand why. I still have not figured that out. Why? Because we're all, well, for the most part, we all seem to evolve that way, and then we work on it. But it's like, this whole comparison and need to be accepted and need to be okay. And I mean, I know it comes from obviously our growing up, our childhood, but it is a strong force that I just feel like needs to be broken, or just like tamed, or give people the tools, or the stories like we're trying to do, the stories that we've been there, we've done it. Like we made it to the other side and we are okay for the most part, but it's possible to give people hope.
Wow, beautifully. And let me tell you, you mentioned the scale numbers looking in a certain way. It was just in May of 2022, this year, that I could literally go outside in public without feeling like I'm going to die if I do not wear makeup. And it's insane. And indeed, it's a work in progress. We are still humans. The last time we checked, we are still humans. You can still see me fidgeting my hair. And the best part of it is that even now when I do all sorts of events and I see that maybe just a stray of hair is not looking great, maybe my makeup should have been a bit different, a different color, I can laugh it off because I know, thanks to Glenn, that I'm so much more than a face, than a body, than my hair, than my makeup, than anything. It's the heart that we need to be putting out there. So my next question for you guys would be, do you believe that being perfect and imperfect is a good way of looking at yourself now? What do you think, Len?
As I always say, and one of obviously the title for the campaign, Imperfectly Perfect, to me, it's about embracing those imperfections because they are what make us perfect, what God made us. We've all got our quirks, we've all got our ways, we've all got flaws that we believe are our flaws. And hey, if I went through the journey of body dysmorphia, even though you and Leighanne both mentioned the scales, I went down that route as a male as well. And if I went down that journey to be here today to talk about this, I was one of the worst for critiquing myself and thinking I had perceived flaws, to the point where I went to doctors and I was saying in front of my friends, can you not see this? Can you not see this? Can you not see this? To the point it would have, quite frankly, pissed them off. They couldn't see anything. So it shows us what we tell ourselves in our head. We are perfect in all our flaws that we think we have when nobody else sees them. And I just want to say, as I sit and I listen to each of the ladies, this is what I love about the Imperfectly Perfect campaign, and I love about people sharing stories. It goes past superficial conversations. You get to know a person's heart and you get to know what drives them. And my hope for each of these ladies as they go forward is that they continue sharing these stories and make their own book series Because as much as they've come onto the IPC and the Pay It Forward was a mission that was placed on Kezia's heart. IPC has been placed on my heart. Leighanne has a story that's been placed on her heart, and that's like her journey in Claire and Romy and every single lady. So to move forward, to truly empower and impact 1 billion lives, is for them to move forward, maybe make a book series themselves, maybe just continue this conversation in whatever means it is. Because, as I say, you sit here listening, and the more and more you get to know these ladies and you get to know everyone that you talk to, you just realize that nobody truly has any flaws. Nobody's perfect. No one's imperfect. You don't look at what someone looks like. You don't look at aesthetics. You're listening to their heart, because they're communicating what truly matters to them. So you see them for the first time. Superficial conversations, as you know, like we've all been a part of them. What do you get from them? Right, really? Like, if it's just like, hey, how are you? How's the weather? Or somebody's banging on about they're going out this weekend and they need to be dressed a certain way and they need to do this. And there's no judgment, because we've all been there. We've all gone through that younger time. But I mean, if you truly sit down, those conversations we've had, Roxana, and you've opened your heart up to me, and I've shared my vulnerability with people, and these ladies stepping forward, Claire, Romy, Leighanne, and all of them, that, to me anyway, is when you see a person for the first time.
Wow, just listening to you again, what a great reminder. I needed this at the beginning of the week, Glenn, so thank you for saying this. Flaws make us absolutely beautiful and gorgeous and so unique. What a better way than to be admiring yourself, than looking in the mirror and saying, I'm just amazing, I'm perfect as I am. So thank you for the amazing reminder, Glenn. Romy, what does imperfectly perfect mean to you now?
I think it's as Glenn was saying, I think it's us at our core, because we have our shadow self, which sometimes is our imperfect self, which are all the things that we've pushed down that are unacceptable to family, friends, society, and that we believe are wrong with ourselves. But it's within that shadow self that you actually have your golden shadow. And your golden shadow is actually the blessings and learnings. And sometimes I think one thing is jealousy. Sometimes we look at jealousy as a really negative thing, and it can feel really sticky and uncomfortable when we experience it. And it's one of those emotions that we actually don't like to admit to, and we push it down. But in jealousy, if you actually looked at that jealousy and you thought, well, what is it about that? What is it that I truly want? What is it that I feel uncomfortable about in this moment? And actually, it's that you're feeling insecure in yourself, and that there is a want outside of yourself that you're not actually able to move towards. And once you recognize that, you can then go, well, if I could move towards that want, what would I need to do that? And that's when you can break it down and look at the resources that you might need, the support that you might need. And all of a sudden, that jealousy has taught you how to get what it is that you would like, and to open it out to your friends and family around you. So I would say there are no, the negative emotions that we talk about, they're just way showers to more light, if we look at it in that way. And that's how I see being imperfectly perfect. So yeah, so I'm really pleased to be a part of this campaign.
I can see and I can feel that, and I know that everyone can see how amazing you are, Romy. You are opening up your heart in such a way that I feel that you are glowing. You have gotten some amazing lessons out of this amazing experience, and I could not be more grateful than to be a part of it and to listen to your ladies' amazing stories. And I have not asked you ladies too much about your stories, because that is what the people watching us and listening to us, they need to get this amazing book, which I have already pre-ordered. Everyone is going to find the link in the description of this live session, go get this amazing work of art, because you get to see and you get to experience real heart opening up. Leighanne, what would you say that imperfectly perfect means to you now in this very moment?
It means I can breathe. It means I can laugh at myself. I don't have to go into that complete full-blown anxiety panic attack before maybe I get on a video. That's been part of my career for the past 6 or 7 years. It means I get to have boundaries. I get to say no. I get to say yes. It means I love to sing. I have a passion for music and singing. It means I get to sing as much as I want, as loud as I want, which I do entirely too often, probably. Distraction. It means I get to be that person that people look at and go, "You're so odd." And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with that. Yes, I am. I know I'm different. Yes. I believe in energy. Yes, I know, because, sometimes people just, if you start talking about certain things, they look at you like, okay, I don't know if she's all right, but it means I get to celebrate that and I get to have fun with it. I get to play. And that comes with, I think, my life is just goes hand in hand with the wisdom. I don't want to say that comes with age. That doesn't sound good, but it just comes with experience, like going through the stuff and being in the fetal position and then climbing back up, crawling, and then jogging, and then running, and then sprinting, and then you're there and you're like doing a few marathons and boom, something down again. I have been knocked down too many times. Plenty of times, which actually, I don't want to say it's a strength, but in a way it is, because I've been down and I've gotten back up every time. I always say I have like 9 or 10, or I don't even know how many lives. And it's strange as it sounds, it's that self-confidence that being who I am, going through life without a mask on and just having all that removed, one, it creates more space for me to feel comfortable, but to also build that self-confidence that, you know what, if I fall, I'll get back up, and I will get back up every single freaking time for those that can't. And that's why I do it. And that's why I'm not okay with putting another mask on, because if I show up just being me, being real with all my flaws and all my whatevers, that creates a space, a safe space for somebody else to do the same. So that's what I'm committed to.
Absolutely beautiful. When you said that I can breathe, I felt that. And I think that Glenn and the ladies have felt that, the power of that. This is amazing. And you also mentioned having fun. Do we forget to put our children that are inside of us first? I know that I have a child. She's cute and sweet, not sleeping too much lately, not very happy about that, but it's a constant reminder that we just need to let it all go and just enjoy ourselves in the process. And being weird or loud or whatever other people may see us, it's fun. And let's see it as a feedback, and let's just continue to be who we truly are inside of us. Claire, what does imperfectly perfect mean to you now?
For me, it just means being who I am and accepting that everything about me is meant to be this way. I am stubborn beyond control. I am stubborn, but it gives me that determination to keep moving forward. So things, just looking at things a different way as well, so that not seeing my stubbornness as a negative thing, actually going, do you know what? Yeah, all right, I might be stubborn, but this means that I can take things forward to the world. The way that I'm just accepting everything about myself is meant to be this way for this reason, and to lead by my heart and to take things forward, and not being afraid to embrace all of those things about me, whatever it might be, good things, bad things, like they all work together to make you this person. And that is truly beautiful when you can actually just accept that all of that together is meant to be this way for that reason, so that you can just live your life as yourself. And, you know, piggybacking on what Glenn said about society conditions us and all this sort of thing, you know, trying to push that aside and be like, no, that is not me. That might be how society wants me to be, but that is not me. So accepting that all of these things, like imperfectly perfect, you know, the flaws, the negativities that people project on us, you know, all these things, embrace that and just be who you are. And you just feel like a weight has been lifted when you finally start to accept those things.
It gets easier. We don't maybe necessarily want things to get easier. We just want us to be better, to be feeling our best selves. And as you mentioned, stubborn, I know that as I listened to your story when you were talking to Glenn, you have conquered some very serious condition with your health in order to move forward with your amazing career that I know you are so passionate about. Being stubborn has been an amazing advantage for you, to say the least. So well done, Claire. And thank you for sharing that. And as we have been listening to your amazing stories, I'm sure that everyone will want to know how to get in touch with you. So Glenn, can you please tell us, I want each and every one of you to tell us for a minute, how can people get in touch with you, how they can collaborate with you, and how can they get this amazing book? Glenn, can you please start by giving us all the details?
Yeah, sure. So you can find everything at imperfectlyperfectcampaign.org. You will see all the links where you can get the pre-release, which is currently out, and also in 9 days' time when we officially launch the hardback cover. So people can go there. They can find us on Amazon. It is the Pay It Forward Notes to My Younger Self in collaboration with the Imperfectly Perfect Campaign Volume 4. If you want to find me, you can go to Glenn Marsden. As you've seen, there is an upcoming inquiry for 2023, and this is one of the big things. If you're interested in sharing the story that you're sat on, then reach out and you can find out more information. And as well, make sure you tune in with these ladies, because although 2023 is going to see some more people stepping forward, these ladies are a part of the IPC family. We're going to be doing some projects, and I hope to see them releasing some more books, because I've spoken and got to know them more. And I'm just going to use Romy as an example, because she told me more about her story the other day, and she needs to write a bloody autobiography. And by listening to Leighanne, so does she and Claire. But the further that people can gain this no fear about doing something, it's what the Imperfectly Perfect campaign's about. So if these ladies have, felt led to share their story on this book, and it moves them forward to start a book series themselves and get more people sharing their stories, that's how we're going to do it, because this world is made up of stories, and somebody out there is waiting to hear, to either save a life or make them feel that they are enough.
Amazing, Glenn. Thank you for saying that. One thing about stories is, let's discern whether we want to believe stories that are truly empowering and supporting us, or are we going into believing stories that are dragging us down? Stories about what other people think that we should be talking about, how we should be looking, how we should be building our lives. So yes, stories are so powerful. Thank you, Glenn, for mentioning that. And definitely 2022 is about to end, but it doesn't stop here. So get in touch with Glenn for 2023, this amazing series that he is starting. Very excited for you, Glenn, and for all the good that you do. What a privilege to be able to read your content, see your videos, listen to your amazing podcast. It is such a food for thought, food for soul for me and for everyone watching you. So thank you for your amazing work. Romy, how can we get in touch with you? And a final thought before we leave today?
Thank you. People can get in touch with me. I have a website and it's just romybrooks.com. I'm also on Instagram. I think I'm Romyann Brooks, just all one word. And I'm on Facebook as well, just under Romyann Brooks. I'm not very tech savvy at the moment, so just be a little bit patient with me. And the last thought I would say is there's one thing many years ago that I read, and it really impacted on me, and it was the sense that we are all coming from a place where we want to love and be loved, and that at our core, that is everything that we do, even if it feels dysfunctional, it's coming from that space. And the dysfunction is actually the distortion that maybe society or imprints and conditioning have created on us. But if everyone is coming from that space of wanting to love and be loved at their core, then I think that enables us to feel compassion for others through their suffering and through our own suffering. So that is just something that I would like to leave, because it's a thought that's always stayed with me, and that's how I view people, and that's how I sometimes have to remember to see myself. So thank you very much for inviting me on today and for giving us this opportunity. Thank you.
Romy, beautifully said. Thank you so much for mentioning again the word compassion. It's a real privilege to be here in this very moment, to listen to your story, to listen to your thoughts, to listen to what Glenn has to say, Claire and Leighanne. It's a true wonder of nature that I get to experience so much bravery and courage and determination. Such a great lesson for me today. And Leighanne, can you please tell us where to find you and a few words of wisdom before we go?
Sure. Well, I am on Instagram. My name is just so hard to spell. The last name is just odd. So to keep it simple, my website is dropthemask.co. Simple. But I am on Instagram, Leighanne_Hromcik, and that's just entirely too difficult to remember. So dropthemask.co. You know, I just like what Romy was saying, like we all are looking for love and to be accepted and so forth. I'm a big Dr. Joe Dispenza fan. It's like he speaks about, and it's so true, that we all are connected within and throughout our hearts if we can open up our hearts, because we all have one. And one of the thoughts that came to my mind was, you and I have talked about this, excuse me, before. You know, when you walk into a room and you feel like everybody's staring at you because you have a stain all over your shirt or whatever, and you feel like everybody's staring at you and everybody's judging you, not you, but in general. And I had somebody tell me somewhere along the way in my life, they looked at me and they said, Leighanne, you're just not that important. Meaning, you know, here I am worried about, let's just say, the stain on my shirt or whatever. She's like, you're not that important. I'm like, oh, yeah, she's right. I mean, I'm really not. And then it changed my perspective. Pretty much everybody else in the room is probably thinking the same thing. Like, okay, yeah, my shoes don't match. Like, you know, everybody's in their own head, which brings me to my next point is, and I know it's hard to do this, but trying to be, my biggest thing is try to be present in the moment, wherever you are, whether it's good or it's bad, you're stuck in traffic, you're whatever it looks like, you're about to be thrown off to jail. I don't even know. Doesn't matter. Being in the moment, being present, because I mean, we're always, and I'm guilty of it, we're always thinking about, you know, where we got to be or the next thing, or, you know, me multitasking this, and our brains are my brain is always going entirely too fast. It's like be in the moment. And where that comes from is originated from when my parents died, and there's something about death that is so final. And I know that's been said a million times, but when you experience it with somebody that you love deeply, and you know you won't hear their voice again unless you've recorded it until you meet again, you know, whatever your beliefs are, but that you can no longer be in the moment. Like those moments have passed. You don't get another moment. And to do the best we can to avoid building resentments, regrets, and beating ourselves up, because that's just a whole nother spiral. We get the mask, then we get the whole thing. Being in the moment, and I wasn't always in the moment. So I'm saying this hindsight from the wisdom, what I wish I would have known, or would have known how to be. And then the other thing is, and it's easier for me to say this now than when I was younger, but just do the thing. Like, do the thing that you are most afraid of. Do the thing. Because I have feared the thing, whatever that was, for so long. Once I finally did the thing, it was like, oh, the thing was successful, and I built self-confidence. I was like, the light came on, and I was able to go into a room and not care, trying to keep it clean, not care about the stain on my shirt or whatever, because I just did the thing. And there's always going to be a thing, and then a next thing. You just keep on going, and then you just build all this wisdom, and you can pay it forward and pass it down and save lives, hopefully.
Beautiful, Leighanne. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for being with us today. This is very powerful, and as I listen to you, I get so emotional when you say that you're also doing it for others. There's just so compassion that you build inside of you for other people, for helping. And this is a remarkable example. So thank you for all that you do. Claire, where can we get in touch with you, and some final words of wisdom?
Okay, so my main two are, I'm on Facebook and just Claire Gibbons. Instagram, I'm Claire_Gibbons_. I am on LinkedIn, but I'm not very good at it, but I'll get better. My final thought I was just sat here thinking about was when we were saying about judgment and everything and how society conditions us, my final sort of thoughts on that were like that you don't know people's stories. You do not know what goes on behind closed doors. You don't know how they're feeling from one moment to the next. So try to be like that, less judgmental, and actually start listening to people, not just listening with these either, with your ears, just listen to like the tone of their voice. You know, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. You know, that, you know, they're not fine. So just try and sort of, yeah, just try and be sort of a little bit more compassionate, like Leighanne was saying and Romy's saying, like we've all got these things going on, and like I say, you don't know people's stories, so be less judgmental and start to actually lead by the heart and care about those people, you know, care about what's going on with them, try and help them through a difficult time if they are going through that. You know, it's not all about us at the end of the day. There's everybody else out there has things going on, and we all need that help and support now and again. So I would just definitely say be less judgmental and listen to what's going on with people and not judge them on what you think is happening in their life.
Beautiful, Claire. Thank you for that. What an amazing reminder. And I want to express my gratitude for being in your presence today once again. What an honor, ladies and gentlemen. It has been such a privilege listening to your stories, finding more about this amazing book that is going to launch in 9 days. 9 days, you guys. You are going to find all of the details in the description of our live session. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your time, for your energy, and for your amazing wisdom. And I look forward to seeing what you guys are going to be building next. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.